We are glad to see all of you in this room. And today, together with Kevin Eichelberger, who is CEO of Blue Acorn Company, which is Magento partner company, we are going to do Magento platform technical overview session. And today's session is structured as two parts. Like at the beginning, I will provide to you technology and architecture overview, and after that, Kevin will show how Magento customizable is and how to customize your Magento instance for particular business needs. And before I start, can I ask you a question? How many of you already developed or have any relation with Magento? Okay, it's nice. Yeah, and I hope that everybody who didn't work with Magento after today, you will start to work with them, because it's a really amazing product and it's very scalable. And how scalable it is, we will see right now. We are starting with technology stack, and for Magento, most recommended and most tested environment is LAMP environment. It includes Linux as operation system, it includes Apache as web server, MySQL as database, and in our case, it is PHP as server-side scripting language. It is recommended environment, but it is not required one. And Magento performs well on Windows Server. We have few clients who are running Magento on Windows Server. You can use Nginx as a web server instead of Apache. Also, Magento is running with multiple RDBMSs, and we have support for Oracle and MS SQL. On server side, a server-side scripting language, we are using PHP. And all our client-side functionality is written on JavaScript. PHP and JavaScript communities are really huge, and they're providing to the world a really big set of already implemented functionality that is available as frameworks or libraries. Let's say, like when we started early 2007, PHP framework market was really active, and some really big players was there. And at that time, Zen framework project was started, and Zen, which is PHP company, provide official support and development of Zen framework. Right now, we are using this framework as main components library in our system, and have a lot of parts of this amazing framework using in Magento. Also, we have functionality that rely on PHP extension and application repository library. It's famous pure repository where you can find a lot of features implemented with PHP. Another example of library that is used, third-party library that is used in Magento, is Apache Solr PHP client. This set of classes provides us ability easily to integrate Magento with a very powerful search engine Solr. On JavaScript, most of Magento functionality is written based on prototype and script Akula as library, and we are using jQuery and TinyMCE as our out-of-the-box WYSIWYG editor. This list of libraries not limiting the developer, because if you found any functionality that is already implemented in PHP or JavaScript world, you can just easily plug it into Magento and start using it. Even with best technology in the world, a big part of success depends on how your application is organized, depends on your application architecture. And today we will go a little bit deeper into Magento architecture, and we'll see how it's structured. Magento architecture starts from application layers. And we have 4 main layers that's represented with library layer like as a fundamental one. and on library layer we have all our frameworks located. On top of library layer, we have data access layer. And data access layer in Magento presented with install upgrade scripts and resource model classes. Data layer is reused by our domain layer, and domain layer is presenter of all business logic. And top layer of Magento is presentation layer, which provides you ability to present all data and all business logic that located on the layers below. Magento is modular, and module as smallest unit of Magento functionality is presented on almost all layers except libraries one. With writing new module, you can deliver functionality into presentation, domain, and data layers. Presentation layer is more flexible and has two additional units like skins and themes, which helping you as developer to customize Magento functionality. Magento is based on MVC architectural pattern, and from the early beginning we was using native MVC implementation that presented in Zen framework. Later, due to additional requirements, we end up with own implementation on view and models layer, and Magento controllers are very simple, very similar to Zen framework controllers. And everybody who works with Zen framework can really easy to understand how they're organized. Magento module. Magento module structure is really simple, and it includes few key points. Each module usually have configuration, blocks, models, controller, and database schema definitions if necessary. Configuration responsibility is to define module version and dependency between of your particular module to other modules. Also, on configuration, Magento provides ability to identify your module extensions points and inject your module inside any existing extension points like events. Blocks in Magento are simple PHP classes, and responsibility of those PHP classes is provide public interface to front-end developers, to theme developers, to get data from your business or domain layer. Models are implementing two layers. They are responsible for business logic representation, and inside the module we have a dedicated set of classes that are called resource models and are responsible for access to data storage. Controller are entry points into the module, and they are handling all requests that are coming to your module. With database schema scripts, you defining new tables, you can upgrade any existing tables, and you can prepare your data before your module is set up and running. Magento view. On view level, we have few decomposition units. And it started with design interfaces. Design interface can deliver multiple themes, and actually is used as container for theme fallbacks. Theme fallbacks provides front-end developer to override any existing template and layout files which are actually part of the theme. In such a way, front-end developer, if he needs to customize some specific block or HTML of some specific block, he can create new theme that will override just necessary files and customize your Magento frontend. Between all themes, we have set of skins that are shared and available for use in any theme. Magento extension is a big part of our architecture, and it is the package which we are using for delivering or installing new functionality and packaging our functionality. And in such a way, you can use Magento as the platform and add to this platform any additional functionality like payment methods, shipping methods, themes, etc. Magento extension includes source files of your module or theme and instruction where to locate those files on the server. You can avoid to use Magento extension and just use archives and set up them manually, but with extension it's much easier and simpler. Magento functionality is very rich, and much more functionality is available in Magento extensions. But each business is unique, and usually you need to do specific customization for specific customers. How you can do it with Magento easily? You can affect database structure with module upgrade scripts. Magento provides very powerful mechanism of logic overriding even on class methods level. With dependency injection pattern that is used for class overriding in Magento, you can introduce your own class that will be used instead any existing one. Let's say you need to customize the way how your product calculates the price, or how price is calculated for your product. In such a way, you overriding just product models, and your new product model could be used instead native ones that deliver it with Magento. Also, you can override controller actions, methods, and blocks. In addition to that, we have predefined extendability points in which you can just inject additional processors. Those points are called Magento events, and they happen, let's say, when new order is created. And when new order is created, you can, with your extension, you can introduce additional logic which will process order creation process, and let's say at the same time send request to ERP system. On view level, with just writing simple XML instruction, you can change your store look and feel. You can reposition blocks, add new blocks, remove blocks to your page with layout upgrade scripts. And as I mentioned before, with overriding the templates on theme level, you can easily change how your HTML is built. Let's say if you need changes in HTML to change how your block looks like, instead grid to show list, you can easily do that. Skins mechanism allowing you to do very powerful customization without even deep knowledge about Magento. If you're a good CSS developer, or CSS coder, you can write your own skin and introduce it into Magento, and in such a way you can do localizations. Like, let's say, if you need localized logo, you can do it with skin files. You can change color schemas. As a result, we see that Magento provides to developer a lot of flexibility, a lot of customization points. And it could be used as foundation for your business, and it provides a lot of functionality, but also it's providing you the customization sources. And what are those sources? First of all, it is Magento Connect, the official marketplace for Magento extensions. On Magento Connect, you can find tons of functionality, and as you heard before today, that we have over 4,800 extensions that are available currently on Magento Connect. You can just find proper one and install it for your Magento instance. Definitely, you can do in-house development, and Magento developers market is also growing. And with in-house development, you can do customization that will cover any your needs. Like you can start from changing configuration and localization of your Magento instance. You can change look and feel of your front-end and back-end, and you can override classes and methods. Also, Magento has a lot of partners. We have solution partners, we have design agencies that are working with us, we have development firms, and they can help you to build your own store. And now I'm passing the ball to Kevin, who is actually, his company is Magento Gold partner from version 1.0, and he will show how to customize Magento on real examples.
Thanks, Dimitri.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dimitri. You guys got it going on over here, I tell you what. That's the place to be. So I'm going to shift the focus of the conversation a little bit more towards the business aspect of this architecture, what it means to us as a service provider, and also what it means to our clients that are actually getting the Magento implementations. As Dimitri demonstrated, Magento is an architecture that is extensible and it's modular, and this presents a great deal of benefits to us and to companies that are implementing Magento. But essentially what it boils down to is that Magento is a solution that can be used to accomplish a wide variety of goals in a wide variety of scenarios. But I'm going to first off start by saying I'm not a developer. I may have a development background. I'm not an architectural genius like Dimitri is, but I run an organization that has a lot of developers. And in that environment, we're responsible for delivering Magento according to a series of best practices and development methodologies that's very closely abided by everyone on our team. So with that said, and that out of the way, we're going to talk about Magento from a technical overview standpoint in terms of how we see Magento in the marketplace. Every client that we work with comes to us with very specific requirements, and each one of them is unique. And in those scenarios, we might have clients that are requiring Magento to integrate to a back office system, or it needs to integrate to a POS system, or it needs to integrate with social or other areas. And every single one of those is unique. And we look at Magento as a framework for e-commerce, in that it is used in many cases as a starting point or a building block of our implementation. When I say framework for e-commerce, I think a lot of what you've heard earlier today and probably throughout the rest of the sessions tomorrow is that it really is now more of a framework for commerce, and we're really dropping the E from it. And I think X.commerce and eBay and the rest of the folks and the greater team have some great things around the corner. But Magento provides a great deal of benefits to us today, and that's what we're going to be talking about. So what does this all mean? Why is this so important? So again, because every client has unique requirements and unique needs, we need to make sure that we have a solution that can scale and adapt to those specific needs. So the technology that we're implementing is important not just from a standpoint of trying to do X, Y, and Z. In e-commerce, one of the things I love about the industry so much is that it couples tightly together technology and business, and to the point that they're really one. And so when we look at an e-commerce implementation, and as developers, you're responsible for not just building a piece of functionality, you're responsible for shaping that business. Every business that we work with is unique, and granted, you might see another business with a similar business model or that sell the same products or in the same marketplace, but at every level, a business is going to have a value proposition, a differentiator, a business plan, a combination of characteristics that at some level defines that business. And because e-commerce is so tightly coupled of technology and business, if we don't implement a solution that meets those specific characteristics, we're failing that business in terms of delivering them a solution to succeed. So there are a couple of core things that an e-commerce solution must do in order to be successful. One, it has to support specific functional requirements. Every client we work with, again, has different needs, different requirements, different areas that the platform needs to support. Secondly, it needs us to integrate with third-party systems. This is a must-have. Again, a lot of what you talked about earlier with the X.commerce framework and everything that's going on over there is built largely around this idea of making it easier to integrate. And the third thing is it must readily adapt for new technologies. Again, referring to some of the sessions earlier, There's a lot of trending towards other areas in other marketplaces that's important for you as an online retailer to be visible in. So these are 3 core characteristics that we're going to talk about here. So the first one, supporting specific functional requirements. Again, Magento is architected in a way that we can really adapt for almost any scenario. And every client coming to us with different requirements demands that we have a solution that we're working with that can meet those specific functional requirements. And each one is different in every scenario. So typically, the type of functional requirements that you're going to see are going to be something to enhance the user experience, some custom functionality on the front end of the site, something to make the user experience a little bit better for the shopping experience for the user. You might see a lot of requirements that are designed around supporting a specific business process or workflow. I handle orders a certain way. That's the way I need Magento to be reflective of how I manage orders and how my business process. And the third is extending core functionality to support a specific unique requirement that every client will basically have something that's very unique to them that we got to make sure we can adapt the system to work around. So let's talk about one specific example. Hello Lucky is a client of ours. They're a specialty letterpress and design company. They're actually right down the street here in San Francisco, 2 blocks down on Howard. And they launched on Magento about 3 years ago and are recently working with us on a series of updates to their site. And a large number of those updates are around improving the user experience. So in working with them, what we've talked about doing is one specific requirement that we're looking at is called a Save Designs functional requirement. So as an online retailer of letterpress and wedding invitations is a big product line of theirs. And we all know that the process of creating and shopping for wedding invitations is a very intimate process. Typically, it involves a number of steps, a number of visits to the site. You typically want to go there, design it, ask your girlfriend, ask your mother, ask your wife. Hopefully you don't have a wife and a girlfriend at the same time. And it requires a lot of input. You want to ask your friends, you want to share it. So their requirement is such that when a user is on their site customizing a product, which we are leveraging Adobe Scene 7 for, we want to be able to save that product, be able to share it, get feedback, and actually for the same individual product, be able to have multiple variations of that saved in a list. This is one example requirement of a number of things that we're doing with them. So this is just some of the bullet points of some of the specific features that we had to develop for. So again, allowing the user at any time to save that customization so that they can refer back to it later. Users need the ability to name those the specific designs and allow for multiple of them. And the core one at the end there is, from the user standpoint, from a usability standpoint, they did not want the user to have to leave the page that they're on in order to do all this. Everything has to happen on the page. And so we use a lot of Ajax to accomplish this. So we talk about this from an MVC standpoint and kind of tying in what Dimitri had mentioned earlier. How do we look at this from a Magento standpoint? What is needed to develop this specific functionality? So first we have 3 controllers. And again, the controllers are used to route actions. So when someone requests this very specific feature or URL is requested, that controller essentially routes that information to a specific model. So the controllers that we have in our specific instance is one, a Save Design Ajax controller. So when someone clicks Save this design, there's a dialog window that opens up. They're able to save their information and off it goes. Second, we need an Ajax login for account because it is required for each user to have an account to use this functionality. They also need to be able to log in, again, without leaving the page. Native Magento would take you to an account page where you'd have to log in there and then go back to the page. And the third one is to send to a friend Ajax controller. So again, when someone views a saved design, a previously saved design, they can share it with a friend, enter their email address, all happens via Ajax without leaving the actual page. The models that are needed to support this, we have 2 specific models. One is the user design, user saved design list, so basically the collection of saved designs for an individual user. And the second is the saved design collection itself, which houses multiple products and their specific variations of customizations. And last, we have views. In our case, we have a couple of views, but I've kind of grouped them together. One being the Save Design customer account area, which I'll show you shortly. So when someone logs into their account, they can see the saved designs that they've previously done. And the second is that there's multiple lightbox windows and dialogues that we had to build out to accomplish that, and that's a variety of different views. We look at this from a code perspective. There's 3 modules that we've built to support this. The first module is the Ajax login module. And you'll see each of these modules in Magento represent the very same structure that Dimitri demonstrated earlier. Each module may or may not have blocks, helpers, controllers, database scripts, and, well, I guess helpers. So some of them will have them, some of them won't, if they're not necessary. So in this case, the Ajax login had the following files that were necessary to develop that functionality. The next one was the Save Design functionality. So when someone actually, again, clicked on the Save Design button on the product page, this module would support all of the functionality around that. And the last is the Send Friend. So this was allowing a user to share this design with their friend via email, social, you name it. And you might ask, why didn't we just make this as one module? Why 3 modules? And it all comes back to a lot of really core Magento development methodology of really making everything modular and extensible and also separate from each other in a sense that we can use the Ajax login in other areas of the site. Because it's its own module, it's separate from the collection of specific requirements for this one component. We're able to separate those things out and able to reuse them in other areas. So here is an actual product page for Hello Lucky. And so this is a product that you can, in the upper right-hand corner, personalize this product. When you personalize it, it takes it to a nice little screen, and you might find some of the text on the invitation rather enjoyable. So you're allowed to customize the product, change its color, the text, et cetera, et cetera. And from here, it's off the screen, but down below, there is a button to save your design. And when a user clicks Save the Design, they get a dialog that opens up in a light box that says, give it a name. And if you name it something that already exists, you have the option of overriding that existing one or adding it as an additional one to that. And if you're not logged in yet, it'll prompt you to log in first. And then here is the Save Design in the actual account section itself. If you notice the account dashboard and other typical account links on the left-hand side, we've integrated this into the account section so that the users can manage their Save Designs themselves. They can also open it and continue where they left off on customizing the product. They can also share it via email, delete it, or add it to the cart directly from this page. So this is all custom functionality that was delivered with actually not very much effort to put all this together. And I say that while I have a developer here that might be snickering otherwise. So that's one example of how Magento can be customized to support a specific function requirement. And in their case, it was enhancing the user experience. So the second requirement that we talked about was integrating with third-party systems. There's not a Magento implementation that I know of that doesn't have a single integration. Maybe there is, I'm sure there is. But in my experience, there's always some type of integration that's necessary. So the platform has to be adaptable to other solutions and allow you to plug and play with those other solutions. Some examples. ERP and accounting software. Very oftentimes the case we have to integrate with some kind of ERP backend system. SAP, Oracle, QuickBooks, Microsoft Dynamics, you name it. CRM solutions. So again, Microsoft Dynamics, CRM, Salesforce.com, other CRM solutions that are out there, there's a myriad of them. Email marketing services, MailChimp, Constant Contact, ListTrack, and of course, third-party shopping marketplaces, some of which have been represented here today. So let's talk about one specific example, and that is in handling new orders. Dimitri mentioned a little bit earlier how you can put in a hook into Magento, so when a new order is created, you can actually kick off a process and do something else with that order. So what we're going to do with that order, we're going to take it, we're going to feed it into an OMS or an ERP system. Now, when we look at integrations like this, Magento has a native web service for integrations. So in many cases, you can integrate directly with that web service layer and not have to custom develop anything yourself. In many cases, there are third-party solutions that already exist for these integrations that you can tap into the market and the community and use a pre-existing extension that's already available. In our example, we're going to simplify the scope of what we're customizing, and we're going to look at it from the event that if we did have to custom develop this, how would it look? So in our example, we're going to dumb it down. We're just going to say new orders that come into Magento, we're going to feed into this back-end ERP system. Now, obviously, in most integrations, there are many more touch points to consider. There is what if the order gets edited in Magento, or what about shipping updates or order updates and other areas that might affect us. For the sake of conversation, we're going to simplify this into just focusing on new web orders that come into Magento. So the requirements of this integration demand that when an order is placed, we need to send the necessary order information to the back office system in a specified format. Now, in most integrations, there's 3 core questions you're going to have to answer in terms of how you're going to go about developing an integration. First of which is data definition. You're going to need a data mapping between data in your system and the other one. You also need a data definition in terms of the structure of the data. Is it JSON? Is it XML? How does it look? What does the format need to be? And every solution that we integrate with has a different format, and oftentimes we need to work together on coming up with a accepted combined format for both systems. And hopefully it's something that the X.commerce fabric will help alleviate, is coming up with a very consistent way to integrate with other systems. Second thing is that you need to understand the medium of transferring that data. So that medium can be a web service call from Magento calling a web service on your ERP server, or it could be a flat file that's generated and placed into an FTP location, and the system will run over there and process the flat file from there. And the third is the underlying framework or support system of the functionality of the integration itself. So the second requirement of this functionality is that we got to make sure that the data is transmitted securely with dynamic encryption on secure channels. And the third is creating a log of all transactions and responses. My typical recommendation is that if you are having any kind of automated integration, is you have to have a logging mechanism to track down when or if things don't get through all the way, or that there's problems you need to troubleshoot. A log can definitely come in handy. And we need to allow for admins to see integration status. So when I log into Magento's admin and I pull up an order, I should be able to confirm whether that order was sent down to the ERP system, whether it was accepted, what was the response from that system. So that in the event that I find an order that wasn't integrated, I can look back at a notes or some kind of log and actually determine what is the status of that order, and I don't have to be a developer to pull that information up. So again, from a code standpoint, this is a web service that we built for sending orders down. And again, it's going to consist of the same type of structure that we've talked about before. So we're going to have blocks. And in our case, blocks are going to be used to control screens in Magento's admin. So the screens I talked about that you want to be able to see the integration status of an individual order, those are going to be set up as blocks. We're going to have helpers that determine the translation of data. So the labels and the translations are all managed inside of the helper class. Helper module. The model itself is going to basically be the functionality of the integration itself, the methods, the guts of the integration. It's going to be mostly held in the model itself. We're going to have controllers, and the controllers are going to route actions. So in the admin, the specific URLs that are being requested for specific actions, those will all be routed through the controllers and handled appropriately through the model. We have configuration files. The configuration files actually help determine, there they go, where the module sits in Magento, turn it on or off, et cetera, et cetera. And last, we're going to have some database scripts. So database scripts will be here that help control whether, or help define when this is installed, any database tables that need to be manipulated or added or changed. Also helps you handle upgrades and uninstallations for that matter. So we end up with is an order in Magento's admin that when an order is placed, gets automatically synchronized down into a third-party system. Now, obviously, there has to be a web service or something on the other side that's accepting that information, collecting it, and then processing it internally. But from a Magento standpoint, the capabilities of building this integration is rather straightforward, and it can all be done using the same development techniques that you use to develop anything else on Magento. So we've talked about Hello Lucky and supporting a specific functional requirement. We've talked about integrating with third-party systems. And the third requirement that I mentioned earlier is readily adapt for new technologies. This is a big one, and you'll hear it a lot throughout the conference if you haven't already, is that we all know that the face of e-commerce is changing. You know, what was something that you can have a website and sell products on years ago and be successful with is now an area that you have to be in different channels and different avenues, and you need to be where your customers are. So having a solution that can adapt for new technology is critical. You know, our clients and companies that implement Magento are going to request from you as developers to make sure that the solution that they have is going to work with new technology. In fact, they're not even going to ask for it, they're going to demand it. It's going to be a strict requirement for anyone implementing a new solution. So obviously, we all know how Twitter and Facebook and Groupon and all these really innovative new technologies that have come up in the past couple of years have dramatically risen in a very short period of time. Take, for example, Twitter. I mean, how many people were actually on Twitter 3-4 years ago actively using it to that extent that it is today? And if you're an online retailer and you're on a solution that does not allow you to tap into that technology easily, you're left in the dust. So it's great and all, but what does all this mean, right? So we're all here to solve a challenge. And for us, the challenge is to online retailers, how do we help them? And what is that challenge? And how does technology solve these challenges? And the challenge that our clients are facing and the challenges that online retailers are facing are, how do I grow? What do I have to do? What technology do I need? What solutions do I need? What do I have to do? And we are responsible for providing that answer. And even as developers, you're not just delivering a solution. You're delivering an answer to that challenge. I gave away my next question. So how many of you know what the what the Magento tagline is on the Magento website? Anyone know what the Magento tagline is? Don't be shy. That's right, it's an e-commerce platform for growth. So again, getting back into this challenge that we're trying to solve, the challenge is growth. And we need to use technology to deliver the solution to that challenge. And Magento has positioned itself in a place by doing all these things to allow for growth. But you know, where is that growth today? You know, we know the challenge, it's growth. Where is it? How do we get it? The growth today, it's online, it's social, it's mobile, it's in-store. And Magento is positioned so that you can attack all of these areas. And the stuff that X.commerce is working on is very exciting, and it's around the corner, but I can tell you today, Magento allows you to tap into every single one of these areas to be where the growth is and to capture that growth. Again, people adapt this technology at a feverish pace. So what is not even on your radar today could become a thriving channel tomorrow. Because we can't predict this, we have to make sure the solution we're on has the ability to adapt with that technology as it changes. And online retail behavior changes. As you know, a number of slides earlier have presented how the shift from offline retail has dramatically incorporated more online metrics into the decision-making process that people go through. Behaviors are changing every single day. In a very short time span, online retail spending is dramatically shifting to mobile and tablet. And this is an opportunity for growth. And Magento's capabilities around mobile, its capabilities around some of the community content in terms of third-party extensions that integrate with social and other areas allow you to tap into these new areas rather easily. So in summary, Magento does all of this and provides all these great benefits, but it does it in a way that is modular, separates customization from core code, and can scale with demand. These are all challenges that online retailers have faced traditionally with other e-commerce platforms that Magento allows you not only these benefits, but also goes along with it a way to do it really well. But the business benefits of all this means that there's lower maintenance costs, there's improved quality assurance, and there's future upgradability of product. It's something that you as an online retailer can work with for a long period of time and not have to worry about, well, the next technology next year might totally obliviate this and we got to go to something else. Because we've seen it time and time again. So with that said, thank you for your time. We're going to have some Q&A with Dimitri and myself. You can feel free to tweet questions if you'd like to the XMag hashtag, or just feel free to announce. I'll probably be relaying most of them to Dimitri to answer since he's the technology genius here. So any questions on the Magento technical overview? Yes, sir. Yes, so the question was, I showed an example of an integration with Magento and an ERP system. And the question was, would X.commerce be envisioned as the middle ground between those two systems going forward? Is that correct? Yeah, so yeah, it would definitely be the case. And our hope is that the X.commerce fabric makes it such that these integration points are even easier for us because it's a singular set of code that we can use to integrate, whether it's SAP or Oracle or other systems, as long as they have their end connected to the fabric and we have Magento's end connected to the fabric. It really doesn't matter what's on the other end. It should all be seamless. So I think that's the goal, and I'm very much looking forward to that. Any other questions? You have a Magento architect. This is your only chance.
Yep.
I'll repeat the question. So the question was, how does Magento keep up with the Zen framework and the changes to the Zen framework? Are we keeping up with the code, or how are we managing that?
Yeah, definitely. We're monitoring all changes that are happening in Zen framework community, and it will be a Zen conference next week. And on Zen conference, I think it will be a lot of great announcements about new features that introduced in Zen framework, like events manager, dependency injection part, and implementation. And currently we are working on Magento 2. More details I will share with you tomorrow about Magento 2 project. And we're looking at which features from Zen framework 2 we can include into Magento.
Yes?
You saw how you could customize the feel of a Magento-based store. What if I wanted to take some of the pure data and store it as XML and have that interactive thing where I want to edit it into another site or even include it into a mobile app? Is that possible?
Sure. So the question was, can you take the XML feed from Magento data, use it in another system, or have a completely different front end to what maybe Magento otherwise offers, correct?
Yep. And answer for a really great question. And answer for this question is yes, you can. First of all, we have about 30% of our functionality is open as web services API. You can request web services. And also we are allowing to do such customization with even our native blocks, because our native blocks output default method is to HTML. And also we have XML output. And in such a way, we have implemented our XML Connect module that are responsible for communication between Magento mobile apps and Magento server. Yeah, thank you.
We have a question on Twitter for you, Dimitri. So the question was, is there anything that can be done to protect the person's code that might be customizing Magento?
Well, great question.
Put you on the spot.
As we deliver code as open source, like you can use PHP encoder to encode your code, but it will require from server environment additional software to be installed. But if you're delivering it as is, then no way to protect it.
Yeah, there are some extensions out there already that use IonCube loader, I believe, is what we need to install with that. So it's I don't want to say it's fairly common, but I know there's a bunch of good ones that actually use IonCube encoding to protect their actual code for extensions. Any other questions?
Am I right in an extension for Magento 1? And how big of a change would it be to make it work with Magento 2? I mean, I know you're still working on it, but is it like, a big jump, or is it small modifications?
So the question was, well, I have to repeat every question for the audio. The question was, if he's developing an extension for Magento 1, how much work is going to be to port that over to Magento 2? He's going to have to basically redevelop it from scratch, or how portable will that be?
Okay. The answer for this question will be, you will not do a lot of work, and we will provide all instructions that you should to do. We keeping our documentation up to date with all changes that we're doing for breaking backwards compatibility, but Magento 2 will be not completely new system. It will be refactored Magento 1 system, and it will not require a lot of work from extension.
Yes?
Are there any ERP modules from Magento instead of having back broken by SAP or Oracle, or tools?
So the question was, are there any ERP integration modules from Magento Inc. themselves, correct? Or are you just saying, okay, yeah. So I don't think Magento has any native integrations. I don't think you guys probably have plans to. But there are a couple of commercial third-party solutions out there for different ones. I know SAP Business One has one, and there's a handful of other ones I know that are out there that integrate with a variety of ERP systems. But Magento Inc., I don't envision would actually make any of their own.
Right now we don't have any extension that we supporting for integration with ERP.
Yes?
Can you talk to the Magento Go API or extensions?
The question is about the Magento Go API or extensions.
Can you repeat?
Magento Go, the Magento Go API or extensions, so maybe developing extensions for Magento Go versus...
Actually, developing extensions for Magento Go will be very similar as developing extensions for Magento Community, because Magento Go is using exactly the same code base as we're releasing for Magento Community and Enterprise Edition. And your extension to be installed on the Go should pass for now code review from our team, but pretty much it will work on Magento Go as well.
Yep. So the question is in regards to the code review process for extensions on Magento Go, or for even that matter, the is it the trusted
extensions?
Trusted extensions, yes.
Actually, the main limitation for trusted extension is how they upgrade existing Magento data schema, because the problem with Go is that merchant can enable or disable extension, and if your extension will upgrade data schema, it will be not possible to revert it back over the time. And one of the criteria is how extension is working with database schema, and other criteria is that how secure is your extension, and it is a huge list that the extension should pass to be trusted.
All right, we got 2 Twitter questions here. One is, when will Magento 2 be available, Dimitri?
Okay, about Magento 2, I will respond tomorrow.
No comment, official answer. And the other one is, with the Magento X.commerce integration, are the features provided geared towards Enterprise Edition or Community? If you're specifically speaking to the integration capabilities, it's going to be independent. A lot of the web services and the APIs are consistent between both, so there's not much more you're going to get out of Enterprise versus Community on that, in that regard. If it's, I'm not sure if that was the nature of the question, but that's how I read it.
Yes, please.
As a merchant, will upgrading to Magento from 1 to 2 be as easy as upgrading just a version?
Okay, the question was how easy will be to upgrade from Magento 1 to Magento 2. Yes, it will be same way as you're doing upgrade from different Magento 1 version. We will provide all scripts that will convert all your data into Magento 1, into Magento 2. Okay.
Any other questions? Last one.
Magento Go, I heard Magento Connect, Magento Go now, is that correct?
So the question was, is Magento Connect working for Magento Go now?
Oh, Magento Connect is available on Magento Go now. Right now, we have trusted extensions that are available on Magento Go. Like, it's connected to Magento Connect, and sorry, can you repeat, please? Just trusted extensions.
I think in general, all extensions from Magento Go are going to have to go through a code review process.
Yeah, for now, yes.
Great. Well, with that, thanks
Thank
everybody
you,
for your
everybody.
time. Enjoy the rest of your conference.
Thank you, Kevin.